They never cared to learn. After that, I walked back to the motel. Slower than usual, not because I was tired, but because I wanted to feel every step. To ground myself in the reality of my resolve. The air was sharp with the smell of pine and impending snow. Maine's way of reminding you that beauty and bitterness coexist, side by side, inseparable. Back in the motel, I brewed another cup of weak coffee, the aroma faint and unconvincing, and sat on the bed, replaying the video in my mind. Not to relive the humiliation, but to dissect it, every detail, every line, every laugh. They hadn't just mocked me. They had rehearsed it, crafted it like a performance to please an audience of their peers. They had turned me into a character in their little show, a punchline for their entertainment. But they forgot something crucial. I was never background noise. I was never a prop to be discarded. I had built that house with Thomas, sewn every curtain with my own hands, patched every chair, painted every wall. I had raised Grayson under that roof, taught him to tie his shoes, wipe his nose, read his first sentences from picture books. I had buried my husband with dignity, cooked every Sunday dinner for years afterward, even when no one bothered to say thank you. I was the mortar holding every brick together in the life they now claimed as their own. And they had the audacity to parody me, to reduce me to a Halloween joke so cheap it wouldn't survive past the punchline. They thought I would stay quiet, that shame would keep me still, paralyzed in my isolation. But shame is a familiar coat to women like me. We wear it until it frays at the edges, then fold it neatly, put it away, and don resolve instead, a garment far more durable. That night, I wrote a list on a scrap of motel stationery, titling it Final Things. Update will. Retrieve original deed from safe deposit box. Call Ava Mendoza. Order transcripts from camera footage. Change everything. I put the pen down and stared at the last item, the words blurring slightly in the dim light. Change everything. It wouldn't be quick. It wouldn't be loud or dramatic. But it would be permanent, a shift as inevitable as the turning seasons. Because when people laugh at you like that, mocking your breath, your body, your age, they aren't just being cruel for cruelty's sake. They're laughing because they believe you can't do anything about it, that your power is spent, your voice too weak to echo. And that is exactly when you must act, when you prove them wrong with quiet, unyielding force. So I folded the list carefully, tucked it into my bra like a sacred prayer close to my heart, and whispered to the empty room, Delilah the mummy, huh? Let's see who gets buried first. The first snowfall of the season arrived on a Monday, quiet and unannounced, transforming the world into a pale, hushed landscape. I woke to trees softened with powder, rooftops dusted like confectioner's sugar. The motel parking lot blanketed in a thin layer of white that muffled every sound. Everything looked clean, untouched, renewed, but I knew better than to trust appearances. Beneath the serenity lay the same harsh realities. I made 2 calls that morning, my voice steady despite the chill seeping through the thin walls. The first was to the bank where Thomas and I had opened our joint account 43 years ago. A sturdy institution with marble counters and tellers who still remembered our names. It was also where we had rented a safe deposit box number 117, tucked into the bottom row for discretion. The key to it had hung on a chain around my neck ever since he died, a constant, quiet reminder, just in case, just like he asked. The second call was to Ava Mendoza, a young lawyer I had known since she was a girl. She picked up on the first ring, her voice soft but steadier now, a woman grown into her strength. Miss Delilah, she said warmly, I need to open a door I've kept closed too long, I told her plainly. And I need someone smart enough to stand beside me when I do. There was a brief pause. Then, I've been waiting for this call for 15 years. I arrived at the bank just after noon, the snow crunching under my boots as I entered the lobby. The manager, Mr. Hargrove still recognized me, though his hair was thinner and his tone more cautious, laced with professional detachment. I presented the key, signed the necessary forms with a hand that no longer trembled, and followed him through to locked doors and down a narrow corridor into the vault, a cool, echoing room lined with metal boxes like silent sentinels. He knelt to open box 117 and stepped aside respectfully. "Take your time, Mrs. Cotter," he said. I didn't rush. The metal drawer was heavier than I remembered, sliding out with a metallic scrape. Inside, a stack of yellowed documents tied with string, a velvet pouch containing my grandmother's pearl earrings, a sealed envelope with my name written in Thomas's familiar, looping handwriting, and one folded sheet of thicker paper, aged but intact, the deed to our properties. I opened the letter first, my fingers careful on the seal. It was dated April 12, 2009, 3 months before Thomas died. "Delilah, my love," it began, his words leaping off the page as if spoken aloud. "If you're reading this, it means the world has gone a bit colder. And it means I'm no longer beside you to keep it warm. I know you. I know you'll carry on quietly, maybe too quietly. So I'm leaving you something louder, a way to protect yourself if needed." The document beneath it was a notarized amendment to our original estate plan, drawn up with an old friend at the courthouse in Bangor. It granted me full discretion to override the family inheritance if I ever experienced neglect, abuse, or abandonment at the hands of our heirs. It named no specific individuals, keeping it broad and ironclad. In the event that Delilah Jane Cotter is treated without dignity, she shall be entitled to reallocate all assets as she sees fit. The assets included the house Grayson now occupied, the adjoining rental property we had once leased to a local teacher for extra income, 7 acres of land up near Belfast where Thomas had dreamed of building a community garden, full of vegetables and flowers for the town, and a retirement portfolio valued at just over $1,250. Zero savings accumulated through years of frugality and wise investments. I folded the papers carefully, placed them in my purse alongside the letter, and left the vault feeling 10 pounds lighter and 10 years older, the weight of possibility now in my hands. That evening, I met Ava in her office above the bakery on Main Street, a modest space with an old oak desk, polished to a shine, law books stacked neatly on every shelf like soldiers at attention, and a window overlooking the town square now coated in fresh snow, muffling the sounds of passing cars. She looked up as I entered, her dark hair pulled back, and smiled warmly. "Still wear your hair the same way," she observed, "and still walk like you own the place." "I used to," I replied dryly. She poured tea without asking, chamomile, steaming and soothing, and gestured for me to sit in the worn leather chair opposite her desk. I handed her the documents and waited while she read, her eyes scanning the pages with professional intensity. Her expression didn't change dramatically, no widened eyes, no dropped jaw, but her grip on the paper tightened, knuckles widening slightly. "This," she said slowly, deliberately, "is enforceable. Ironclad." "In fact," I nodded, unsurprised but relieved. "And the footage?" she asked, leaning forward. "I have copies, physical and digital, dated, time-stamped, and witnesses. One is Eloise Garner, and the other a nurse at the hospital who overheard the discharge call and my son's refusal." She leaned back in her chair, hands folded under her chin in thought. "I'll take the case. Pro bono." "I can't pay you," I protested weakly. "You already did," she countered. 15 years ago, when you made my graduation dress for free because my mama couldn't afford one, and you told her dignity should never come with a price tag." I stared at her for a long moment, memories flooding back of that young girl, nervous and excited, twirling in the mirror. "You remember that?" I wore it like armor, she said. I still have it in my closet. The silence between us was no longer empty. It was full of history, of shared purpose, a bond forged in kindness now repaid in justice. Ava laid out the plan methodically, her voice calm and strategic like a general mapping a battlefield. We would file for a protective order based on elder abuse and emotional distress. Submit the footage, the witness testimonies, my detailed journals of incidents, and Thomas's letter as irrefutable evidence. We would initiate a formal request to transfer all holdings into a new trust one. That excluded Grayson and Bell entirely, redirecting the assets to causes that aligned with dignity and protection. No court in Maine will look kindly on what they did, Ava said, her eyes meeting mine. Especially not with video proof of their mockery. I nodded again, this time with steel in my spine. Unyielding. What do you want the new trust to do? She asked, pen poised over her notepad. I didn't hesitate, the words ready on my tongue. I wanted to protect people like me, women who have been quiet too long, who are told their value ends when their skin wrinkles and their usefulness fades. I wanted to be a weapon in the hands of the forgotten, funding shelters, legal aid, education on rights. Ava smiled, a fierce glint in her eye. Then we build you an arsenal. We signed the first batch of documents that night. The scratch of pen on paper, a symphony of empowerment. I left the office with a file folder under my arm and the kind of resolve that doesn't shiver in the cold, even as snowflakes swirled around me on the walk back.